Hello, ground passers, and welcome to the Australian Open. No, we're not. We're not in Australia. Even though Nick, someone on Instagram messaged and said, "Are you in Australia? I want to take a selfie," which was so cute.
I would love to be in Australia. I think we said in the last pod we would all love to be in Australia and see what the Australian Open's like for ourselves, particularly after the amazing kind of week that they've had there. But no, sadly, we have not made the 12-hour flight.
No, we have not. And we will talk about that FOMO because I definitely had some FOMO just watching the incredible fan week that the Australian Open had. And I was just like, I wish I was there. And of course, Roger Federer was there. So it made me even feel more FOMO, but we will talk about all of it. Nick, I want to gauge what are our excitement levels for this year's Australian Open compared to maybe last year? How are you feeling?
Last year was a year ago, Anastasia. I don't remember that far back. I barely remember 6 minutes ago. So um, I I remember being, I've hyped as always am for a Grand Slam. Maybe I'm a little bit more hyped for seeing how it's going to unfold over the weeks rather than sort of like that, the early matches onwards. Not because I don't think there's going to be any good ones, because we'll talk later. We've got a few that we're looking forward to. But I think that a lot of the interest for me is going to be who makes second week and see what made big storylines kind of build. And that's the benefit of having a slam so early on in the season is we start with a bang. We start with season defining moments right now. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to really. So it's kind of this, it's very contained at the moment. Wait till the tennis actually gets underway and the FOMO really hits when I wake up in the morning and I've missed half the tennis.
Right, exactly. We will talk about how we're going to be coping with watching the tennis, but you're right in the sense that I'm not any more or less excited than I am about a Grand Slam. I'm always excited about Grand Slams. It's kind of like our Super Bowl, and we get to have four a year. So I'm really excited for the Australian Open to get started. I think maybe this year, the sort of like fan events that they had have even made me maybe slightly more excited just to see how the tournament goes since the first opening week was so good. So excited to jump into it. We do not have a hotline question today. Did not get any questions from all the posts I put up, but again, we have 2 weeks of a Grand Slam. So if you have any questions for the Ground Pass hotline, you know what to do. Drop us a comment, drop us a line on our email. Links will be in the description of this podcast for how you can send us a question. And usually what happens is the day before we record, I put up a story or a post on YouTube asking for questions. So that is also another way you can send a question to the Ground Pass hotline. Also, voice memos. If you are attending the Australian Open and you want to tell us how exciting and fun it is and how much we are missing, sure, you can do that. You can send us a voice memo to remind us of what we're missing. Again, those usually are 2 to 3 minutes long, letting us know about your experiences, and you can drop those on at our email address. Again, all of that will be in the description. So cannot wait to hear all the exciting things from the Australian Open just to give me more FOMO. So thank you. And last bit of admin before we jump into this episode. I just looked, Nick, we're close to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Crazy.
Wow.
That was nice to see. Thank you all so much for, joining along in this fun little podcast we have here. But yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming this season. We will be talking about that towards the end of this episode. Extra behind the scenes footage, interviews with players, that is all coming. Like and subscribe. You know what to do if you are watching this on YouTube. Our show Off Season is going to be starting this Sunday, so that is exciting. And if you want any of the bonus extra features, we have a YouTube membership. If you would love to support us and our travels around the tournaments of the world, we would love to have you in our YouTube membership program. And also we have Patreon. So if you're listening to this, for example, on a podcast player and you don't do the YouTube thing, but you want to support us through Patreon, you can do that as well. All the links in the description. Okay, Nick, let's get into it. Before we jump into the Australian Open, which is really going to be the meat of this episode, we have to talk about what happened this week on tour. Or three, I mean, technically four events if you want to do that, but the men and women were in Adelaide. Then we had a tournament in Auckland and one in Hobart, a WTA event in Hobart, an ATP event in Auckland. And we have some winners. Nick, we were talking about this earlier before we recorded, but you didn't do a lot of watching this time around because of time zone stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the time zones of these locations just did not suit me in so many ways because, like, Sydney and Brisbane could go a bit later, so I could keep an eye on things like over the course of a morning, especially since United Cup tended to go quite late, and Perth as well. But yeah, these cities, like a lot of the action was wrapped up by sort of 8, 9 a.m. for me, and like there were a couple
Mm,
of night sessions. They were usually overlapping when I was working, and then everything else was just be waking up to results. Especially as it got later on in the tournament, they started doing late. They didn't do as many later finishes, so none of the finals happened. All of the finals were at 1 or 2 a.m. my time. So this was probably a better week for Anastasia watching tennis than Nick watching tennis because Anastasia could, you know, send herself off to sleep with watching tennis and, like I can do at the US Open.
yeah.
But I wasn't able to do that. I was waking up to seeing what happened, which, there were some storylines I would have liked to have seen unfold, but I was very interested in seeing the results. So we might be relying a little bit more on Anastasia's takes this episode.
Yeah, and I definitely did put myself to sleep to a lot of matches. Not that the matches were boring, but the matches were on, and they were the last things I did before I went to sleep. But yeah, this is gonna be kind of our lives for the next 2 weeks. My sleep score, which I love to keep track of, is already going down. I achieved such a high sleep score by the end of last year, and now it's just gonna go down the drain. But anyway, we will build back up after the Australian Open. But Nick, let's talk about this. I think in terms of just the general themes of what happened. We have all our winners, which we will talk through, but I feel one of the big takeaways, which is piggybacking on what we talked about last year, not last year, but last episode, is the WTA Next Gen is here. They're here, they're ready to play, and they're doing phenomenal. The Adelaide WTA final was between Mira Andreeva, a teen, she's 18, and Victoria Mboku, 19. Like it was such a young, final. And then we had Eva Jovic in the final in Hobart. So, Nick, the WTA Next Gen continues to just make themselves known, and it's almost a step up from what we had last year.
Yeah, I think from them, which is inevitable because they've all gotten older, they've got a bit more experience, they've developed their games, they've developed physically. So it's no surprise that we're starting to see them making some big waves. There is a lot of excitement. I think, 3 out of 4 finalists being 18, 19 years old is pretty impressive. If you want to count Alex Ayala as next gen as 20, she won the Kooyong Classic, which is an exhibition that traditionally warms up before the Australian Open. I believe it's at the site where the Australian Open used to be
Yeah.
up until they moved to Melbourne, Melbourne Park. Yeah, with it's more or less what we said that like these players are here and there isn't that buzz of all these younger players are coming through because in some ways it feels like they're kind of here. Like Andreeva's already top 10. And Boko's won a 1000 is now going to be top 16 and she's going to be kind of traveling upwards. She's actually got very good if you do bookmaking, which I always take with a pinch of salt, but I think it's interesting that her odds are actually better than a lot of other players. I think she's in like the top 10 best odds players going into this Australian Open because of the reputation she's got. So I'd imagine a lot of people are backing her. And then Jovic is like, she's getting herself more and more entrenched in the top 30 and she's coming through. And a lot of people are going to say, okay, what's the next step? She's won a 500. She's narrowly missed out on a couple of titles in the last couple of weeks. Like, what's the next big moment for her? And yeah, I think it's kind of like, it feels like they're here. They're in the mix now. I think the hype will really build when they start beating the top players.
Yes, yes, totally. Sticking with Adelaide and the final there between Mira Andreeva and Momboku, I think it was just really a great showcase of what the WTA is becoming. You know, it's sort of a very, very exciting tour with new faces coming in and old established faces still on the top there. So I think it's so exciting, especially when we get into looking at the Australian Open draw. Like, my favorite side of it was the women's side, because I was like, there's just so many exciting matches to look into. And Andreeva in that final looked really great. She did start it like slow. She was down 3-love to start and then just sort of locked in and played her game. Considering the odds and what you said in the beginning, with a lot of people looking to Mumboku to do well in Australia, I definitely will say tamper your expectations a little bit, because she didn't look very good in the final in terms of health. She seemed a little down and definitely had her knee strapped. So hopefully she'll be able to recover, but it's a very tight turnaround going into the Australian Open. So it'll be interesting to see what she can do there. But either way, it's just like super fun to watch these new and upcoming players, and I'm excited to keep doing it. And I'm happy that you brought up the Kooyong Classic and Alex Ayala, because that was also a really great win. I was paying attention to it loosely, and I think the final was between her and Donna Vekic, if I remember correctly. Alex Ayala did very, very well, and she won, even though it was, sort of exhibition level. I still think she played very, very well in that. Elisabetta Cocciaretto, who won in Hobart against Ivajovic. I kind of want to talk about her a little bit too, because Elisabetta Cocciaretto is a player that I think people see in the draw sometimes, and they always pick her opponent to win. And I think that was no more so highlighted when she beat Jessica Pegula in the first round last year at Wimbledon. Cocciaretto can play. Like, she can play. She's so small. She kind of is. She's Italian, if you don't know. So Elizabeth Cocciaretto is Italian, and she's in that sort of same sort of like 5'4", 5'5" height as Jasmine Paolini. So I think they're sort of like very built the same way. So I think a lot of times people see her in the draw, or they see her playing, and they're like, the opponent's going to win. And she can sort of surprise people. And I want to highlight the fact that she qualified into Hobart. So she qualified and also then won the tournament. That is a lot of matches, right, Nick?
That is a lot of matches. Like, normally you'd need 4 or 5 match wins to win a tournament with like that size, and with qualifying, it's like even 7 wins, which is enough to win a Grand Slam. Different, obviously, seedings of opponent, but match wins are match wins. So it was a really, really good run. I mean, look, if Cocciaretto had played, if this had been Cocciaretto's result last week, she probably would have been player of the fortnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, super, super strong result. That's going to help her ranking no end. I don't know if it'll help her reputation, but I think that definitely some respect needs be put on her name. Well done, because like you mentioned Wimbledon around that time, I remembered it, her beating Pegula, and that was really, really exciting when that happened. Like, I think I was there for that. I think I saw that happen. Actually, I was in the stands for it. And yeah, there's these just matches where Cocciaretto can peak, and you never know when it's going to be. Yeah, I'm loving seeing that. Yeah, coming from qualifying to win a tournament is probably the hardest way to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe lucky loser to win might be slightly harder, but emotionally anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how she does this season, definitely, because you will be able to catch her on the ground. So if you see her name in the draw, go watch her matches. Now, really quick on the guys, Adelaide was won by Thomas Bahak against Ugo Humbert, and Auckland was won by Jakub Mensik against Sebastian Baez. So we had 2 Czech players win the same tournament in the same week, and our friend Vanch, who we love, is sort of, I call Vanch, he's like a big statistics guy on tennis Twitter. And Vanch put up this stat that it's the first time since I think since 1992 that two Czech players have won a title in the same week. And I think this is, Nick, redemption for Thomas Mahak, because last season he did not reach the heights that we expected based on the 2024 season. I think his 2025 was a little bit disappointing. So it's nice to see him kind of start the season with a title, and hopefully he can sort of keep that momentum going, because we love our short shorts, Thomas Mahak.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I saw the result. That yeah, okay, Mahach is back. Like he's now well back in the top 30 as a result of this title, and kind of seems to have settled the ship after a very odd season last year. Some real highs and also some just anonymity in there. So he beat Humbert, who had beaten Davidovich Fokina in a really tough deciding tiebreak in the semis. So yeah, Humbert's not a bad player to beat either. Probably could have similar stories last year in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then Menchik, I just thought, oh, it's about blinking time, because he hasn't done anything since he made the semis of Madrid.
Yep.
So I was like, and like, no, like he's a young guy and he's still proving himself on the tour to a certain extent, even though he won Miami. But yeah, I just look at that going like, come on, Jakub, like what's happening like with your results? So to see him win a title, I think it pleased me to see him get a second career trophy on the tour and remind people that he's still a force out there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that sense, because when Jakub Mensik won the Miami Open, I thought, okay, here it is. Another young upstart who's going to just sort of announce themselves to the tour and keep going. And it was a dud. Like it fell so flat so quickly. It was actually surprising. And I don't know if it had anything to do with the pressure of sort of like living up to those expectations, but it was really nice to see him win this title. But at the same time, my main takeaway from this final is that Sebastian Baez is going to be a problem in tennis draws. If you see your name next to Sebastian Baez, you need to work something out. You need to like get your stuff together, train harder, because Sebastian Baez is looking so good. And this is, I think, already for me the surprise of the 2026 season, because I think I mentioned this stat last week. I'm not sure if I did, but last year Sebastian Baez only won three hard court matches total. He's more than doubled it already, and it's halfway through January of 2026. Yeah. So I think I posted this on Threads, I think, but I watched Sebastian Baez against Carlos Alcaraz in 2022 at the US Open, and he didn't win the match. In fact, I think he retired from the match, but the first two sets was 7-5, 7-5, and he played so well and so aggressive. And this was before the Carlos Alcaraz that we all kind of know, but still Carlos Alcaraz was super hyped. And here was this player who was known as a clay courter making this move on hard court. And I thought, wow, Sebastian Baez is going to be a problem for the tour. And he was for a bit, but never really kind of like fully went there. And this might be his year, because he's looking really, really good. And I'm excited to actually watch him, at the Australian Open to see what damage he can do.
Okay, I have to ask this, just in case this was anything we're planning on doing later in the pod. Is Sebastian Baez's first round match on your to watch list? Do you know who he's playing?
I think I did circle it. Let me look at my highlights. Well, I didn't actually circle him. He is playing Giovanni Mapeshi Pericard, but I did not circle him.
Yeah, I was debating whether or not to circle that match, because GMP's actually had a really good start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
As well. Not as good as Baez. Baez has been one of the stars of the season so far, in the mix with so many other people in there. So probably the biggest in terms of like wins across the 2 weeks, but both kind of in form and both play very differently. And so I was debating whether or not to circle that match as one of the ones to watch, because that's either going to be absolutely fascinating or a chaotic mess.
Yes, yes. And we should highlight the fact that one of those players is 5'7" max, and the other one's like 6'8". So that's just going to be, I don't even know. I don't know how that's going to work. It's definitely going to be sort of like, I think earlier this season, I just posted about this. Dane Sweeney played Riley Opelka, and Dane Sweeney is also 5'7". So that was an interesting matchup as
Oh
well.
yeah, he got the chair out, didn't he, to shake his
Yes.
hand?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was like a throwback. But yeah, so, Baez looking good, Mensick, these players are all headed into the Australian Open now on a high from a win. And it'll be interesting to see how they get on. And I definitely will be watching for sure to see how Mumboku kind of recovers as well, because, we're going to get into the Australian Open now, and there's like an exciting matchup down the line that it'd be nice to see. It'd be nice to see. But okay, let's get into this. Let's get into the Australian Open because it's here. It's already a week old. And boy, did I have FOMO for Australian Open Fan Week. Let's start with Roger Federer because earlier in the year, I think actually it was the end of last year, or maybe it was the beginning of this year. I can't even remember right now. But it was announced that Roger Federer was going to be at the Australian Open because he never really said goodbye. Like when he retired, it was partly a surprise, or he had been off due to injury for a while. And there was always this sort of like coming back, coming back, coming back. And then it just was like, nope, retiring. So it was announced he was coming to the Australian Open, which I assumed was going to be sort of like for him to like watch some matches, maybe do an exhibition or two or something like that. But he has sort of taken over the tournament. He did a press conference, he's done an exhibition. But I think one of the biggest things that really gave me FOMO was he had a practice match. I don't know if you've seen this, Nick, but he had not a practice match, but like a practice session with Casper Ruud, and they played a tiebreak at the end. And I know, guys, it's a practice session. It's not a real match, but he beat Casper Ruud in the tiebreak 7-2, and he looked so good doing it. I mean, there's this clip that I've posted to our Twitter twice now because it is just so. The second point in this clip, he serves and volleys like he does the Roger thing where he rushes the net. And I was just like, please come back to the tour. Someone give him a wild card to play a tournament. In fact, just kick someone out of the draw. Put Roger in the Australian Open draw. Have you seen this clip, Nick, or did you see any of the footage?
I saw it mainly through Grandpa's social media when I woke up. Like, of course I watched that tiebreak. I'm a Roger Federer fan. I am going to eat up all that content. Like, I loved watching him play, and there was this definite sense of, oh yeah, he still can do this seemingly effortless tennis at
Yeah.
44. However, I do think he wasn't putting that much effort into it. I'm going to be honest, from looking at it, but he didn't need to, like, for this. Yeah, it's nice to see him back on court. He looked like he was enjoying being out there and having fun with tennis. I think he always did have fun with tennis, but now he could show that he was having fun, because it's not super serious. It is a genuine thing. I think, Casper Ruud's like, oh my gosh, I got to practice with Roger Federer. I don't know how much that's helped Casper Ruud's preparation for the Australian Open or not. But yeah, it was nice to have that sort of moment of he's back. That's tennis. That's like, Roger Federer on a tennis court is always going to be worth watching. Unlike you, Anastasia, I was not watching going, put him in the draw. I was watching going, well, this is nice. He's not. If you put him in the draw, he wouldn't last much beyond the tiebreak, but he would. But it was nice to see him, have some decent rallies with Casper Ruud and keep himself in it for like 10 minutes. Yeah, Roger Federer. Who knew? So yeah, that was fun to watch back and look forward to. And I saw him. I think there's a clip that Australian Open have released. Like he did another thing with Ash Barty and Andre
Yes.
Agassi, and they're literally just like they're all mic'd up, and they decide while mic'd up to just swap stories about having kids. And like
Yeah.
Roger's just saying like, oh yeah, how old are your kids and where are they at and how are they growing up? And of course his kids are quite a bit bigger now. So Waiting to see if his kids start playing tennis, to be honest. I heard his daughter's
Yeah.
quite good.
Yeah. But yeah, all the Roger stuff has been like really, really good. And something to note, by the way, this is just an aside, but Casper Ruud's fiance is pregnant with their first child. And Casper Ruud has already said that if it comes time, he will withdraw. Like he will leave the Australian Open. That is his priority. So do not be surprised if all of a sudden, second round, Casper Ruud withdraws from the tournament or anything like that, because he's kind of said already that that is his priority, which I love. I love that. You know, that's important to you, so you should do it. The grounds, of course, have been, packed at the Australian Open. They have all these activities. There's like a huge, massive makeup dollhouse in the middle of the place. There's concerts everywhere. It just seems super packed. But I think the one thing that they really, really nailed that I did not watch last year, but now I'm all on board with, and I kind of said in the post that I put on Threads that I want this at every tournament, but maybe I'm rowing back on that. But still, I cannot express to you how much I loved the 1 point slam. The 1 point slam is genius. It is so good. And maybe it can only work in Australia, but boy, oh boy, did they nail that event. I was hook, line, and sinker. And it's probably what ruined my sleep for the rest of the week because I woke up at like 4 a.m. in the morning to watch it.
Don't blame me. I was hearing all the fuss about it. I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to see it. And yeah, it wasn't broadcast anything I could have watched it on, I don't think.
It
Live.
was on YouTube and it's still there. So if you're listening to this and
Ah,
haven't watched it, I will put the link in the description because it is worth. I mean, I would say maybe skip the first hour and a half, and then it just gets so good.
mm. Yeah, so I've seen clips from it. Obviously, I've seen the winning moment. I've seen Joanna Garland, a couple of her wins. She would actually be rivaling Isabella Cocciarette for Player of the Fortnight, probably for the 1 point slam run that she had. I would say I've seen Iga Swiatek have a really good rally. I can't remember who she was playing. It was one of the guys.
Kaboli. Oh, that was so
Kaboli,
good.
yes.
That was
That's
so
right. Yeah, because I
good.
remember thinking, oh yeah, it's an all-on match. But yeah, she out-rallied Flavio Caboli, which I enjoyed watching. And then there was that absolutely mental match. Wait, who was it he was playing? I know who won the point. It was Medvedev, just getting that sort of overhead backhand volley at the net.
Was it? I think it was Amanda Anisimova. I
Maybe,
think. Yeah. Because I think that's how she got knocked out. I think it was Amanda Anisimova. Yeah.
but that was
Yeah.
like that was unusually like athletic for Medvedev and quite fun to watch. So I've seen clips of it. I've seen the vibe. I don't know how all the other amateurs did. Obviously, one of the amateurs won the thing, but I don't know
Yeah.
how all the others did. But I just remember thinking, I wish it was in my time zone. I wish this was something I could put my feet up and watch on a Saturday night. Like this is like Saturday night British TV all over it. Just that sort of fun, kind of fun vibe of people having a go, of showing off what's fun about a thing. In this case, tennis. And yeah, I really wish that I could have enjoyed it with everybody else. But yeah, huge success. Glad everyone enjoyed it. And I want to say one more thing on it, which is like you were saying, oh, you wishing it was every slam, and then you're rolling back on it. Yeah, I saw a post from someone on X saying, like, yeah, love the 1 point slam, but actually I want the Grand Slams to all do their own thing. And I was like, actually, I'm kind of on board with that. I'm kind of on board with RG and Wimbledon and US Open doing their sort of fun prelim competition for themselves in their own way. Obviously, I don't know if it's something that RG and Wimbledon would attempt because I don't know what the French do for fun, and Wimbledon takes things way too seriously. But yeah, but like the US Open mixed doubles, I thought scratched that itch last year.
Oh, totally. Yeah. This is definitely the version of the, US Open mixed doubles thing that everyone loved. And I know for sure they're definitely going to bring it back. You know what I think? My thought behind having this at every slam was because of how much the recreational tennis player and tennis fan became part of this Grand Slam. Like there was this sense of I don't know if ownership is the right word, but it was so nice to see sort of just amateur tennis players who took part in this Grand Slam activity, because I think that's one thing that's missing for me, at least in the States. There are a lot of people who play tennis now. I cannot walk down the street in my neighborhood without seeing someone bike by with their rackets or walk by with their rackets heading to the park. So many people play tennis now, but not all of those people watch tennis. And this seemed like such a great way to combine those two things, like get all these like amateurs excited about possibly playing at a Grand Slam, even though they're just amateur players. What I found out was they had a whole month long like tournament, regional tournament in Australia to pick the amateurs who ended up at the 1 point slam. So definitely different regions had like mini tournaments, and the winners of those were the ones that all went to the 1 point slam. And then they also on site had a, during the first 2 days, they had a qualifying for more people to be in the 1 point slam. And Blair Henley, who we love and have had on the podcast before, she was sort of like the MC of it. So I got to see a lot of footage of that. And I just thought that, wow, that is such a great way to get all these people who play tennis but don't watch tennis anymore to kind of give them that experience of what the tournament is like, have ownership in it. So that's why I thought, wow, it'd be great if all the other slams kind of do this. But at the same time, I feel maybe, all the other slams just need to find what their own identity is and how they can include more fans in the sport. And, New York is all about show business, and boy oh boy was the mixed doubles event a show for sure, and they made it really fun for the fans and everyone loved it. So it'd be interesting to see what the other slams do. I just think the Australian Open in this case hit the ball out of the park. Like, it was just so fun, and all the stuff they've done has really kind of opened my eyes to what tournaments can do in the first week of a Grand Slam to include more fans and make them a part of the event and not just spectators who are just watching this thing. So I definitely kind of like that. Okay, next, let us go into the Australian Open preview. We have the draw. The draw is here. The qualifiers are set. We already have some lucky losers. We had some people pull out of the tournament recently, so we will talk about that. But quick explanation of the draw, Nick. Super quick. We did an episode before of like how draws work, which I will link below, but just a quick reminder of how a draw works at a Grand Slam.
Yes, there's usually some kind of event that they hold, like usually involving some of the chief executives of the tournament, and literally they just pull numbers out of a hat to see where they fall. So and that's for the seeds. So and the way they do is they place the seeds first. So number one's always at the top of the draw, number two's always at the bottom of the draw. They'll pull out between 3 and 4 who's going to be in the top half, and the other one will be in the bottom half, and then they do the same thing for 5, 6, 7, 8, which quarters they're going to end up in, and then so on and so forth. Once they've placed the seeds, then they'll draw all the unseeded players out to see who, in order from sort of top of the draw to the bottom of the draw, and then that's how it all fills out, really. And there's different kind of ceremonies, like people do different things. Some, like the US Open, just does a release the draw where they just dump it on the information on social media. It's all be done behind closed doors. Wimbledon is kind of this very corporate, almost like company meeting, company event where this all gets pulled out and we see it get filmed. The French Open does something like a little bit different. They do a bit more inclusive for the players and get the players involved. I did not watch the Australian Open draw because it happened at 3 a.m. for me. So I don't know what they
I
do.
watched it. Yeah, I watched a draw, and it's interesting what you said, because for the most part, draws work the way you explain, where it's sort of like you put the seeds in. Of course, like we explained in our draw, episode a while back, which I will link, is, there's the draw is set into quarters, and 1 through 4 are all put in different quarters. So you're never going to get a quarter where Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, who are 1 and 2 in the world, are in the same quarter. They're split up at the top and the bottom of the draw, and this is to make the draw as even as possible and not sort of stacked heavy on one side with seeds, and then another section is full of unseeded players. So they do their best to sort of distribute the seeds evenly across the draw. And of course, people always sort of watch to see where this seed is going to fall and what quarter they all fall into. But the Australian Open, which actually have like an event, like they have fans watch, I think they do the most in terms of presenting and having an event for the draw. I've been to something similar in 2 different local tournaments in the States here. So for example, the City Open has a draw show, an event. Also did one as well. Where was the other one? Oh, Cincinnati. Cincinnati also has sort of like a draw show where they'll have players come out and pick the draw, and the fans can watch it live. So that's how the Australian Open do it. They had Yannick Sinner walking down with the trophy. Madison Keys didn't walk with him because at the time she was still at a tournament. I think she was in Adelaide. So she didn't walk down. But, he was there. They brought out the trophy. But the way the Australian Open do it is they have obviously, and most of this stuff is computer generated at this point, but they put in the rest of the field first. So they just had a computer generator just throw all the names into the draw before they started picking the seeds. So then after all the other names were in the draw, then they picked the seeds and started placing them depending on where they fell. So that was a different way to do it, because usually what happens is that they put the seeds in first and then you get the other players, but it was the reverse for this one. And it seemed fun. The setup seemed interesting. They had all the journalists there, but then also fans watching. I'm not a big draw show person. I literally only watch these now for the podcast, but I'm never, I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm never a draw person. I don't usually do the sort of like, oh, let's pick the winners and see who, wins. I don't usually do that. I did one for the first time ever for this draw. And because for me, I always think tennis is so unpredictable that no matter what seed lands or who, you'll always get the upsets, you'll always get the crazy stuff. So I always feel like trying to predict the draw and who's going to win is so futile in tennis sometimes that I'm not a big draw person per se. But looking at the draw, which I'm sure you've done now at this point, Nick, what do you think in general of the draw? Even, heavy on one side or not? What do you think?
Okay, so I am a draw person. I do go through. Like, I used to get into the whole predicting thing. I do that a little bit less now. But I'm trying to look for the storylines and, like, how things could play out. So, like, where are the form players? When are they likely to meet each other? Coco Gauff have to go through Sabalenka or Swiatek first. Who's going to be, who's potentially floating around to cause a problem and cause an upset, like an unseeded player that's done pretty well in the previous couple of weeks. So I'm looking for that. And I'd say they're obviously very different because the context of these draws are so different. Like, the men's draw is all about Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner and who they're going to play before they get to the final. And then there's like, is Novak Djokovic going to get to the semi-finals? And then it's a free-for-all for whoever's in Zverev's quarter. Sorry, not sorry, Zverev, but you are not those three. For me, I think what interested me about the men's draw was kind of the middle of it was very fat in terms of names that I'm like, oh, they could do good. Oh, they could do good. Oh, they could do good. And I think it's quite congested in kind of the middle sections. And I'm predicting a real fight to get through the third, fourth, even quarterfinals. That's going to be quite chaotic and exciting. And Djokovic is going to be in the mix there. Zverev's going to be in the mix there. You've got that section, kind of the Zverev section I talked about. He's got Medvedev and Rublev, and they are probably the leading people to get through that. Like, that is prime. That's either going to be a Lost Boys resurgence or someone completely random is going to end up in the semi-final out of that. So that's exciting. The women's draw, like, because you've got so many names who, in theory, could challenge Arina Sabalenka, because Sabalenka is the favourite. She has won 40 of her last 42 matches in the country of Australia. Like, she is the heavy favourite to win this title. And it was more of a question of, okay, well, is anyone going to bother? At what point does she come across people who could, in theory, challenge her? And where's everyone else going to end up? Does Iga going to get some people bothering her straight away? Does Coco have anyone worrying her straight away? What about all these other players like Madison Keys, defending champion, Belinda Bencic, Rybakina, Anisimova in there? And that draw's got like potential interesting things all the way through it. I'm particularly interested in the fourth round because I think that could define how this tournament goes. So, two potentially tasty fourth round matches could be Rybakina and Bencic could play each other in the fourth round. I don't know which way that one would go. Even more, I don't know which way that would go. Pegula and Keys could play each other in the fourth round. And if that happens, I don't know which way that one's going to go, but it would be exciting. And then you've got that absolutely fascinating, like, the only thing that I could see Arina Sabalenka having a problem with, the only player I could have a real problem with is Victoria Mboko, who could play her in the fourth round if Mboko is fit, which is the question that's now we've got coming out of Adelaide. Mira Andreeva's got a few tough people in her section. Deanna Schneider was looking good. I'm interested to see if they get another rematch there. But yeah, so sort of trying to figure out where the form players go and where they all fall in the first round. So for me, the first round ended up being less of a chaotic, that one's going to be good, that one's going to be good, that one's going to be good, that I usually get for the women's. Still got some good ones in there though. But I'm very interested to see how this draw plays out given where everyone is, because it's relatively balanced, but you are always going to run into potential kind of bottlenecks between some good players around about the fourth round, and it's interesting seeing where those bottlenecks are going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so before we go into a couple of matches that we are excited for, let's talk about the qualifiers because those are our people. Those are our people. Those are our Grand Pass players. And I made two videos. One is going out today, one's already out of the five qualifiers on both sides that I thought you should definitely keep an eye on. So, Nick, let us just pick a couple of names each of qualifiers that we are excited to watch in Australia. And I will start for sure, but I'm so excited about this kid, Rei Sakamoto. Rei Sakamoto is a Japanese player and he is the former 2024 Australian Open junior champion, and he has the best celebration ever. It's like a samurai. He gets down on one knee and he uses his racket like it's a sword and does this sort of like extended out, like taking a sword out of a sheath and like raising it up. I just want him to keep winning so I can just keep seeing that celebration. But he seems like such a fun player to watch. He also cooks. I remember the Next Gen tournament made this really cool cooking video with him that I absolutely loved. So if you don't know anything about Rei Sakamoto, he's definitely, I think, someone to watch this Australian Open. Just for the celebrations, guys. I will say my second pick will have to be Nishesh Basavareddy. And I think there's just a lot of storylines with Nishesh Basavareddy. He definitely caused a stir in sort of tennis world with his NBA celebration. I think it was during his second match in qualifying. But he has a new coach who used to coach Medvedev, so we know him very well. He was also in Next Gen and got all the way to the finals of Next Gen. Last year, he was a wild card, and his first match was against Novak Djokovic, which he didn't win, but was a really sort of, I think, announcement to the world of Nishesh Basavareddy. So it's interesting to see him now, his second Australian Open. This time he qualified. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the draw, especially with his new team and also a new build. He's definitely sort of like much bigger than he was last year, put on some weight, probably to sort of like get more power into his game. So yeah, Nishesh Basavareddy, I'll say, is the second player that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, what happened to him last year? Because we were super excited with him because he was on our Challengers documentary, and then he played Novak
Yep.
Djokovic, and he had this epic start to the last season, and then we didn't really hear from him again.
No, no, he was just sort of steady there. He did get to the next gen finals also last year. So I think this was his second year doing it, um so he didn't have as sort of meteoric a rise as, for example, Lerner Tien, who we were talking about, both of them in kind of like the same sentences.
Okay, so my couple of qualifiers. So we don't necessarily have these kind of super young guns in the same way as the men's who've kind of come through. A lot of them are already in the draw. So I'm also going to compliment you, Anastasia, because when we did our qualifiers to watch in the last episode, like full
Hmm.
qualifying, I'm pretty sure all yours got through, and mine all lost in the third round of qualifying. And like only one of them's got in because he's a lucky loser, and that's Alexander Blocks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty
I know how to
sure
pick him.
you do, and I do not. So really don't know why you're asking me for this because I'm when it gets to kind of these when it gets so competitive, it's so hard to pick. I'm going to with Zeynep Somnus as my first qualifier to watch. Exciting player when she gets going. I think it's great to see her kind of making her way back into the top 100. She's sort of dropped down a bit, and she's kind of working her way back up. But she was looking pretty confident over qualifying, and on her day is it can do things, and is really, as I said, really exciting. She's got the game to challenge a lot of players. So I think she'd be one of my picks, and I'm really torn between two others. I'm going to go with Storm Hunter because she's just come back from that horrible injury she had over a year ago. And she's now fought her way through qualifying to get to the Australian Open, and she's going to be competing in singles and doubles. But to get through into the mix after what's happened, like having that match win at the United Cup as well, like this has been almost a dream start to the year for her to get through qualifying and get in. So I think she's kind of the feel good story of qualifying, and so that's what I'm going to watch. I'll just throw it out there. By the way, the lowest ranked player in the draw is a qualifier, and it's
Ooh,
Bai Shushan, who's ranked outside the top 700. That
yes.
is so. She's playing Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova in the first round, so that's where you've got your real kind of crazy low ranked run coming from if you want to look at her.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And what about matches? What matches are we looking forward to? There's so many matches to mention, so I think we will just stick to two where like two each where it's just like no matter what, stop all the presses. We're gonna watch them. And I'm going with the All Americans. Like they're just a couple of matches that are just All American shootouts that I'm excited to see what's going to come out of them because it could be potentially they're all kind of in my eyes on upset alert. My first one is Tommy Paul against Alex Kovacevic. Yeah. That is, and it's so crazy because they both are super close. They both trained together during the off season. So it's interesting that they got drawn together in the first round of the Australian Open. So I'll be interested to see who gets out of there. Alex Kovacevic is again like someone who I talked about last week that no one was talking about. He has a new team, new coach in David Witt, and yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there. And then my second one is Marcos Giron and Lerner Tien. Lerner Tien, we know doing really well. He has Michael Chang in his corner. He's, won the next gen, won a title at the end of last year. So he's doing incredibly well. But then we have Marcos Giron, who this year has had some really great results, like just almost out of nowhere. And I don't know, this is definitely, I don't know if this is out in the wild. I don't think he's ever said it, but he's being coached by Constant Lestienne. And if you don't know who Constant Lestienne is, he's a former ATP pro. I hadn't realized that he retired. I don't even know for sure if he's still a current player, but he's known as the magician on tour. There is a video that I think the ATP put out of him doing all of his magic tricks and his card tricks. And he's just a fun character. and had been on tour. So I was shocked and surprised when I saw him with, Marcus Garone in the States. And I just saw this all through Instagram. But it seems like that is his new coach. That's who's coaching him now. So that's very interesting. Can't wait to see that matchup. But those are my two matches that, you know, they better not be scheduled at 3 a.m. in the morning. Of course, they are going to be now. So fine.
Well, unlikely because, I don't know if they're going to be night matches, so you might be okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, right. Let's have a look. So I'm thinking about trying to work out which of these matches I want to say, like, two matches that I would want to have. Okay, I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna pick two women's matches. I was tempted to pick two men's matches because I can see there's a couple of men's matches with five-setter written all over it. Just check my threads, check my X. I'm gonna post my sort of 10 matches that I'm excited for, 5 men, 5 women. Probably around when we start finish recording this podcast. So the two women's matches I'm going to particularly highlight. Let's go with this. This is like the blockbuster match. Barbora Krejcikova and Deanna Schneider. Krejcikova is the only Grand Slam champion from the 20s in the men's and the single women's to not have a seeding. Who's active. Obviously, players like Ash Barty, Rafael Nadal, they won Grand Slams in the 2020s, but they're not playing anymore. And Dominic Thiem as well. So Krejcikova is probably the most dangerous unseeded player at the moment. And Deanna Schneider is probably one of the biggest dark horses in the women's draw. So I am very excited to see what kind of match they produce. I think it's going to be really, really high quality. I would imagine that's probably going to be a stadium match, but could be wrong. But I think that's going to be really, really good. Definitely one to watch on TV. And in keeping with our theme in these last couple of weeks of the WTA Young Guns, Teresa Valentova is playing Maya Joint in round one. And they're both over 18, 19-year-olds. They're kind of the future of the sport. And Valentova's making her way. She's broken top 60 already. Maya Joint is seeded. So she's edging into the top 30 now. I'm excited to see what happens. Like, is this going to be first of many encounters between these two? They both bring very different strengths to the court. You would think Australia's going to be much more Maya Joint's backyard. Roland Garros is probably more Valentova's. But they can both play well on all surfaces. And I'm excited to see what kind of spectacle the new players give to us. So, yeah, that would be the two I would go with.
Yeah, if I was going to add a WTA match, that one was definitely going to be on there. And I will be watching that one no matter what, for sure. We talked about this last week, but just to remind everyone, if you're in the States and in the UK, how we're watching. In the States here, I'm watching on ESPN Plus. I'm going to have my 4 boxes screen up very soon. I'll post about that. I always love posting about the multi-screen. I think it's the easiest way for me to get through the first couple of days of a Grand Slam when there are literally 100 matches happening at the same time. So it's a great way to just sort of like keep an eye on things. And you know, again, I'm going to try and be very strict with myself here. I am going to watch a lot on replay the following morning. Like a lot of us here, that's just what it's going to be. I don't think, unless it's something just absolutely crazy and I need to stay up late to watch it, I think for the most part, I will try and have a cutoff time when I go to sleep and then wake up early the next morning to catch up or, watch any of the matches that are still happening. Because sometimes, depending on how late the day goes in Australia, I actually can catch some live matches if I wake up at, say, 5 a.m. in the morning or 6 or something like that. So that is how I'm going to be keeping up with it. Daily coffee catch ups are going to be back for the Australian Open. This is how coffee catch ups started. So we might as well do a season 2 of daily coffee catch ups from the Australian Open. And if you kind of want a 2-minute recap of what happened that day at the Australian Open, definitely subscribe to our Instagram or TikTok, depending on where you are. That's where those videos will live. And it will give you sort of like the quick headlines and catch ups of what you missed overnight. Nick, how are you watching?
So it'll be Discovery Plus in the UK. which you can get hold of in multiple different ways. You can subscribe to them directly, which you'll get full court choice. You can get it through your Sky TV subscription, and you can also get some of it through an Amazon Prime subscription. So that's the way to watch the Australian Open here. If you're flipping channels, it'll be on TNT Sports.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Okay, we have come to the end, but also the most important part. We have to talk about what's coming up on Ground Pass. So we've talked about this now a few times, but we have a documentary series called The Off Season coming out. It is where I spent 2 weeks following a group of tennis players during the off season, kind of getting a behind the scenes look of what it is like to prepare for a new season of tennis. So the players that we feature are Haley Baptiste, Colton Smith, Ethan Quinn, Elliot Sposiri, and Camilla Osorio. Depending on when you are listening to this podcast, which it is going to be out today, we're recording today, it's going to be out today. The trailer for off season is also going to go live today, so you can get a first look of what the show is going to be like. And the show itself, the off season, is going to launch January 18th, that is Sunday, at 4 p.m. Eastern. And we are going to premiere it live on YouTube. So I am going to be on the chat to sort of answer any questions that you might have about what it was like shooting behind the scenes, or any questions that you have about the show. We can be there together and watch it together. I kind of picked 4 p.m. Eastern because I thought it was the best time that would work for pretty much everywhere in the world, even Australia and New Zealand, because some of the players and some of their teams might also join the live chat just to chat with people in there. And I'm really excited for you to see it. I think I've been thinking about this project for close to a year now, so it's nice to see that it is finally coming to life. And this is just, I think, the start of what hopefully we can bring you here at Ground Pass. Just a different look at the sport that you might not get from other podcasts or other platforms. So excited for that. I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast that, we have a YouTube membership program and also a Patreon now, so that you can, if you would like to help support more productions like this, help support our travel to tournaments and things like that, I will be posting a bunch of behind the scene videos, player interviews all throughout the season as a special thank you for all of our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. So excited to start that up this season. Nick, are you going to be there in the live chat?
Planning on it.
Yay. It should
Right,
it
I'm gonna be
should be
there.
fun.
I don't have shows that I have to sit down and watch. Like, I don't really have that show schedule. Like, as soon as it comes out, I'm there, I'm on the couch, I'm watching it as it goes out live. This is going to be that for me. This is going to be that show that I have to catch when
Yay.
it comes out. And the fact I can talk to people in the live chat as well is a bonus, but I'm just going to be here taking it in and seeing all the great work that Anastasia has done. This has been an amazing project that she's been working on. I've been really excited hearing all about the adventures that she's had. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of these players. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching 9 p.m. UK time and looking forward to it.
Yay. So excited. Finally, what's next? Nick, it's the Australian Open. This is what
Yeah.
what we're paying attention to this week. Um, but yeah, this is, our life for the next 2 weeks going to be the Australian Open. Really excited to get match play started. We will be coming to you, like we mentioned, a little bit more regularly this for the Grand Slam. So I think we have about 5 or 6 episodes that we have planned. We're going to come to you after every other round. So after round 1 and 2, 3 and 4, then we'll come to you to review the quarterfinals, semifinals, and then finally a tournament review. So you'll hear from us more regularly. We will also be doing our fashion review show. Do not worry. We will be doing our fashion review show and posting that. I am so excited because this year there have been so many brand changes and player switching brands and rackets and all of the above that I'm really excited to sort of get into the nitty gritty of that and talk about all of that. And TBD on a doubles preview show. I'm trying to see if I can work one in and get it fit in the schedule before the doubles draw starts. They start a little bit later, so I have a couple of days to try and figure it out, but we will try and also maybe do a doubles preview show. So, Nick, we did it. That's it. This is our Australian preview show. Super excited for it to get going. Nick, what are you going to do now to prepare? Because as we record January 17th, matches start today, tonight.
They start in, what time is it now? 7 hours for me.
Yes.
7 hours. You say sort of start today, start at midnight UK time. That is when they start.
So they start tomorrow for you and then today for me.
So I think I need to go to bed. Get that 6 hours in before midnight.
Go to bed now, wake up at midnight for the first show.
Like, wake up at midnight. I mean, like, that's probably when I go to see, like, this is if I was living the dream and this was my job, I would be going to bed at 5 p.m. and waking up at midnight, starting my working day, and then until the end of the tournament.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you again, guys, for joining us for this episode. We will be back again soon, sooner than usual for sure. But again, you know what to do. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on a podcast player of your choice, give us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. Drop the comments, drop us questions. Let's chat and, get excited together about the Australian Open. We will see you all sometime very soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.